Hello, hello. It's good to see you. Welcome back. How y'all doing? It's good to be here. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to get settled in, but drop a hey in the chat and let me know where you're coming in from tonight. I'm going to get everything set up here. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? There's my mouse. Oh, hey, good to see you. So I'm just trying to get my Ecamm set up here a little bit. And things of starting a little bit late. All right. Let's see. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna bring a couple of these things in right now. So I didn't set up comments. Man, this whole thing is going great. Every week I wait until the last minute to get things set up, and you're witnessing it. So for those of you that don't know the trivia that's on the screen, you can't click it. It's just there for you to answer. Just there for you to play. Can't click on your screen and make things answer. So sorry about that, but we are going to get into something pretty cool tonight. At least I think it's pretty cool. So tonight I want to talk about a thing that I think is slowly making your AI worse. And almost no one I know is talking about it in plain language. Now, I got a bunch of points for you tonight that I want you to walk away with. And I promise by the end, it's going to make a ton of sense and probably explain some of the frustration that you've been feeling. So I just want you to stick with me. Now, I'm going to start with a confession because that's really where this whole thing started. Here's the situation. I'm one person, right? I am running a photography studio. I run a podcast. I've got a newsletter. I wrote a book. I've got a couple little software products out there, nothing big. And there's no team behind me. It's just me. So a while back, I got this idea that I was going to build an AI system that could help me run all of it, like a real operating system. And it was going to be for my whole business. And I did. I built the thing. I gave it rules, I gave it skills, I set up custom instructions, I built little tools, I set up automatic checks, I set up memory files, I did all of it. It was a machine, a real machine, and I was proud of it, honestly. But then I did something I never done before. I actually went back and I measured how I was using it. I looked at 30 days of working with this thing. It was like 100 sessions. I had over 1,000 messages that I had typed into Claude. And here's what I found. 1 out of every 10 messages I sent was me correcting Claude. I was fixing it. I was redoing it, saying, nah, it's not like that. And when I really added it all up, about a quarter of everything that I'd ever typed in that month wasn't me doing actual work at all. It was just me operating the machine. And that's the part that kind of hurt because most of that mess was not Claude being dumb. It was me. It was me burying this thing under everything I had bolted onto it. So I'm not going to sit here tonight and pretend like I'm some engineer who cracked the code on everything. I'm just a guy from rural Maine who overbuilt his entire setup and then had to figure out a way to get myself back out of it. So I'm a muggle in all of this. I'm just a really nerdy one. And tonight, I'm basically going to hand you the shovel so you don't have to dig as long as I did to get out of this hole. Okay. So there's one word that I need you to understand, and this is the one I want you to keep. The harness. The word is harness. And I bet a lot of you have never heard it used this way. And honestly, that's part of the problem. The people who know this stuff, the engineers, they haven't done a great job explaining it to the rest of us. So let me do it. I'm going to make it real simple. The harness is everything you wrap around the AI. It's your custom instructions, it's your saved prompts, it's your project files, it's the memory, it's the little tools, it's the permissions, and any checks that you have running to make sure everything's going smooth. All of that stuff comes along for the ride before you ever type your first question in. It's shaping the answer before you say a single word. So when we say AI knows you, this is the general concept behind it, although that's a little bit too simplistic. Here's the way I think about it that makes it click for me. The AI model itself, that's the engine of the car. That's the part everybody talks about. It's GPT, it's Claude, it's Grok, but they talk about which one's smarter, which one's better. But the harness is the whole rest of the car. It's the chassis. It's the drive shaft. It's everything that actually takes the power from the engine and gets it to the wheels. And you already know this kind of like in your gut. It's intuition. So I watch a ton of car restoration videos on YouTube. And what I found is that these guys drop the best engine in the world into this busted old frame with bald tires, and it still drives like junk and has a ton of mechanical failures, even though it has this amazing engine in it. But the engine was never the story. So here's the trap, and I want you to pay attention to this. Almost nobody sits down and decides to build a harness on purpose. You build a harness by accident. It's one little correction at a time. Every single time that AI messed something up, you add a rule to fix it. And that pile of rules, that whole pile, that is your harness. And I'd put money on the fact that you have never once seen the whole thing laid out in one place. So when Claude or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever starts feeling like it's getting worse instead of better, and a lot of you, I'm sure, have felt exactly that. It's usually not the model getting dumber. They're always getting better. They're not getting dumber. It's your harness that's getting bigger and heavier. And you've been the one loading it down without even realizing it. So that's kind of like a big thing. I'm going to go over to the chat for a second. I want to see if anybody is kind of getting what I'm putting down. Where's my comments? Well, we'll do this one. There's nothing over here. We're just going to get rid of that. Let's see what we got. I tried to click the answer to the trivia, pause the freaking stream. I know better. Hey, Doc, what's happening, brother? Man. All right. I got to eat lunch with the fam. I'll replay. All right, cool. Doc Rock, everybody. Doc Rock, everybody. He's the man. And kind of partners in crime on all of this stuff. So, all right. Let me get back to this. So if you've heard harness used this way, just give me a yes or no somewhere in the comment. I'm just really curious if you've heard this stuff. So, all right, you might be saying, all right, well, okay, how does this actually get bad for me? So I'm going to show you, and I'm going to use my own setup because it's the most embarrassing example that I've got. All right, so here are the real numbers from my own system. This isn't hypothetical. This is something I ran. I had 111 saved skills in Claude. I talked about this last week. You know how many I'd actually used out of that 111? 11. So I cut 100 of them. Gone. Just out of Claude. I had hundreds of written rules stacked up, hundreds. And when I finally sat down and I boiled them all down to the stuff that actually mattered, I got to about 30 lines. 30 lines that I would actually say out loud to a real person. Everything else was just like this repetitive noise. And honestly, the planning got even worse than the rules did. Because over the course of 2 weeks, I generated 4 different versions of the same slide deck, 3 different versions of my overall operating map, 2 full written plans, and something like 18,000 words of review documents about all of it. And you want to know how many of those I actually acted on? 0. None of them. I was so busy building plans about building that I wasn't building anything. I think a lot of you probably do some version of this too, right? You're trying to just get it right. But here's the one thing from this week that I really want you to hear, because it's the freshest thing in my mind and it's the clearest. When Anthropic gave us regular folks the access to Fable a couple of weeks ago, I went on this coding bender. I tried to build everything I ever thought of. And what happened was all my output started to get really, really bad. So instead of building anything else, I decided I needed to run another friction audit. I told you about the one that I ran last week, but I did it again, and this time with even more direction and even more detail. Now, when it went through and I ran the audit using most of my Fable allowance, here's what I found. I realized I had 73 open decisions on my plate. 73 things I supposedly had to decide. And when I actually looked at it, it turned out that they were like living on 3 different lists that didn't know about each other. So I did what I call a kill pass. And I gave myself this like one rule going in. The burden of proof is on keeping something, not cutting it. So in other words, everything is guilty until it proves that it deserves to stay. And when I got to the end, here's what I found. 46 of those decisions were just dead. And most of them weren't even real. They were invented by my own plans. 14 of them were just chores, little tasks pretending to be big decisions. So 73 down to 13. And that right there, that's the whole lesson of tonight in one number. I was never actually behind on 73 decisions. I was drowning because of the harness that was manufacturing fake decisions that I needed to make and stacking them one on top of the other. And since we've been talking about cars, here's the way that I picture this whole thing. It's like Rust. Think about how Rust actually works. It doesn't show up all at once. It kind of creeps up in one little spot at a time. Maybe it's a little bit underneath, it's in the corners, and then it's in all the places you're not looking. And every single spot kind of seems like nothing. It's nothing to worry about. And then one day, you go to put your hand on the frame of the car and your hand goes right through it. And that's exactly what this buildup does. Every rule felt like it was nothing on the day that I added it. And then I added 1,000 little nothings. And then one day the whole thing was just rotten to the core. That ever happened to you? Drop in the chat. I'm going to give you a guess. How many rules do you think I had stacked up before I cleaned it out? Just throw a number out there. Put it in the chat. So the natural question is, why does this sneak up on everybody? Why can't you feel it happening while you're doing it? And that's the next thing I want to talk about, because it's the part that really, really got me. So here's why this creeps up on all of us. It comes down to one wrong instinct that feels completely right in the moment. When AI does something dumb, what's the first thing you do? You blame the model. It's AI's fault. It's Claude's fault. It's not smart enough. And so what you do next, you add a rule to fix it. You fix it. You correct it. It makes sense, right? It feels like it's the responsible thing to do to keep AI working right. So here's the loop that you just walked into. That new rule adds a little bit more weight to your harness, and that harness starts to get a little worse. So you blame the model again, and then you write another rule, and then it gets a little worse. And around you go. You are literally solving problems that your own instructions created by writing more instructions. It's kind of like a snake eating its own tail. And I'll tell you the real thing underneath all of it, because after like thinking about it for a long time, I know it was true for me. I was treating Claude like a real coworker. I was talking to it like a partner, expecting it to think like a human, kind of like getting frustrated with it like it was a person that was letting me down. And the truth is, it's not a person. Right now, the models are just prediction engines. It's predicting the next word based on everything that it's seen. And that's what it's doing. Once I remembered that, once I stopped expecting a mind on the other end of it, I stopped over explaining everything to it like I was trying to talk to an employee. I anthropomorphized an application, and it was a huge ego check for me. I let myself slip into this delusion that it was human, and it's really easy to do. So here's the fix, and it's really just one question. Before you write another rule, stop and ask yourself, did the model actually fail, or did my setup fail? Did the engine fail, or did the harness fail? And I'll be honest, 9 times out of 10 for me, it was the setup. It was never the engine. It was all the junk I'd wrapped around it, all the rust. So I've been talking about this kind of at this general level, but I'm going to get specific for a minute, because there's really 5 main ways that a harness gets heavy. And I've personally hit every single one of them. So I'm going to run through them really quickly. All right. So let me change the slide. I lost my mouse again. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. I got to get better. I need a Stream Deck button for this, but whatever. We're just changing slides with the mouse. All right. So the ways that the harness can get heavy, I'm just going to kind of run through them one at a time. So memory. I'm going to talk about memory first. It's Dory, right? Sorry, I had something happening on my screen. So, yeah, it's, how do I want to put this? Memory's Dory. It's going to remember what you said and then forget about it. You assume the thing remembers you, right? It doesn't. Your AI is Dory from Nemo. It's lovable. It's helpful. But it can't remember a thing on its own. It only holds what you deliberately wrote down. And even then, it kind of fixates on the newest thing that you just said, not the thing that you said 1,000 words ago. Number 2 is rule stacking. Now, this is the one that I've mainly been talking about, and it wrecked me when I found it out. I wrote a brand new rule for every single mistake. It feels like diligence, and what it actually builds is just your own prison, like 1 bar at a time. All right, number 3 is over engineering. Now, this is where you build a whole house because you needed a doorknob, right? So here's the thing, so you can recognize it for yourself. When AI tries to do every single step of a big job, the little errors that it has start to stack up. And if each step is only 90% right, by the time you're 5 steps down the chain, you're at about 59%. So instead of that, you hand all the boring, repeatable stuff to a smaller tool that gets it right every single time. And that way you keep your own head free for all the judgment calls you got to make. All right, number 4 is misplaced trust. And I was kind of talking about this. It's super simple. Garbage in, garbage out. If you give it a lazy, fuzzy, vague kind of request, you're going to get lazy, fuzzy, vague work back. If you're specific, it's going to nail it. And the trick is you got to decide how much to trust it task by task, not all at once. And number 5, and this is the big one. This is the whole reason that I wanted to do this video tonight. You think getting good at this means building more and more. And it almost always means knowing what not to build. So those are my 5 main rules. And like I said, I've kind of face planted into every single one of them. I've lived this. The good news is the way out is the same for all 5 rules, and it's pretty simple. So I'm going to walk you all through it. All right. So here's how you actually clean this up. And I promise anybody that's watching this can do all 4 of these things this week. Step 1, and you can't skip this. Before you cut anything out, you gotta see the whole thing. Pull it all out and lay it out on the workbench. Every rule, every instruction, every file, all of it in one place where you can actually look at it. And I'm telling you, most people have never once seen their harness laid out like that. And that right there is exactly how it got so big in the first place. You can't fix a mess you can't see. So that's step 1. Get it all out in front of you. All right, step 2 is that every rule gets exactly 1 home. So when I laid all mine out, I found the same instruction copied into like 15 different spots. And here's why that's a killer. I'd go fix it in one place, and then the other 14 copies that were floating out here, they were wrong and they'd overwritten it. So now the AI's got 15 different versions of what I supposedly want, no idea which one is actually the one to believe. So the fix is actually really simple. You say a thing once and it lives in one spot, not 15, 1. Step 3, only pull out what you actually need. Now, here's how I think about it from my own work. When I go to a photography job offsite, I don't go and bring every single piece of equipment in my studio. I bring the stuff I know I need for that particular job, and I leave the rest back at the studio. Your setup should work exactly the same way. Don't dump your entire rule book onto every single little task. Bring in the specialized stuff only when the work actually gets to that point. Don't do it beforehand. It's just going to load all this junk. And step 4, this is kind of the big one. If a rule actually matters, stop making it a suggestion. Make it concrete. Because a polite little note that like, hey, please don't use M dashes, that's going to get ignored like 60% of the time. But an actual check, something that catches those M dashes and removes them before anything ever leaves, that works every single time. So quit asking Claude nicely for the things you can't afford to get wrong. Make it concrete and make the machine enforce it. And underneath all of those, there's a mindset that you have to use. You got to subtract before you add. Next time Claude slips up, don't go write rule number 57. Instead, ask yourself what 3 rules you could delete. And that's the whole shift right there. Now, I didn't want to do this cleanup and then have it all just start to slowly migrate back to where it was all over again. So I built a bunch of stuff to keep myself clean. Let me show you what I mean, because this is where it starts to actually get fun. So here's the move. Sorry. Here's the move that honestly changed like everything for me. When something kept going wrong over and over and over, I stopped writing another rule about it. Instead, I did one of two things. I either deleted whatever was causing it, or I built a small little piece of machinery just to handle it for me. Here's a couple of the things that I built. I built a fidelity check for anything I'm making. So before Claude's ever allowed to tell me a thing is done, it has to actually prove that it matches what I asked for. And that one single thing stopped this endless loop that I was stuck in, where it kept telling me that it had the thing and that it matched what I wanted, and it absolutely did not. Second thing was I built an automatic catch-up system. So the second that I open my app in the morning, it already knows where we left off yesterday. I don't have to sit there and re-explain the whole thing. It just knows. This also lets me work across different machines without missing a beat. It's indispensable to me. But third, I built this like little guardrail that stops files from getting saved in the wrong place before it even happens, because I was correcting that same mistake constantly. It was saving files in all these different places. And I had mentioned that kill pass earlier, the 73 down to the 13. I don't do that just one time and then forget about it. I run it on a schedule now, because that rust is going to keep creeping back in whether you're paying attention or not. So you got to come back and grind it off every so often. Now, here's the thing. You don't need to know how to code to do any of this stuff. And I want to keep saying that over and over and over. The part that you actually have to have is instinct. When something breaks 2-3 times in a row, don't write a fourth rule. Either cut what's causing it or build the one thing that stops it. And then every once in a while, just sit down and cut. That's it. All right. So you're probably like, all right, Matt, this is like your weird little obsession, and I get it. So let me show you why I don't think it is, because I got the receipts. I got the proof. So this could totally sound like just one guy out here having a random theory, but this happened this morning, literally this morning. You've heard me mention him before, a guy named Nate Jones, who's really super smart about all the AI stuff and one of my favorite people to follow online. He put out a video like he does just about every day. He did it this morning. Now, Nate's the guy that taught me about using OpenBrain as this semantic memory system, so you can use different AI models from different providers, but still have it know what you're working on. But OpenBrain's a whole different video. The video he put out today is basically the same exact story that I just told you tonight. He went and ran an inventory on his own AI setup, the same as I did. And he found 66 skills built up in there and 172 instructions. He had one writing job that was pulling in like 18,000 words before it ever got started. And he had the same important rule copied into 15 different places. The exact same thing that I did. And here's the kicker. He used the same word that I did, harness. I mean, I heard it from him. But it's two independent people. I've never talked to him. We don't work together. And we looked at this the same way. And on the same day, we both realized that this was an idea that we had to talk about. Doc will tell you, I've been talking about this for weeks. Nate's even got a name for all the stuff that piles up. He calls it barnacles, like on the hull of a boat. I've been calling it rust. It's the same exact idea. We just kind of, put it in two different ways. And to me, that's a big signal. That's the thing I want you to walk home with. This is becoming the conversation in AI right now. It's shifting away from, hey, write better prompts and, go clean up the whole system you just built around the model. And if you're sitting here getting this tonight, you're early, genuinely. Most people are still stuck in that loop of just adding more and more stuff. Now, Nate built this tool that he calls a cleaner, and he put it up on his Substack. So go watch his video. It's really good. It's about 15 minutes long, but I'm coming at the exact same truth, the same conclusions, just from the side of a small business owner who buried himself and had to dig out. It's the same lesson, two different doors into the same room. So go check it out. Seriously, it's only going to be about 15 minutes, and he's amazing at this stuff. All right. I've been talking for a while. Let me bring this home. So that's kind of the big thing for tonight. Here's what I want you to remember. The thing you build around your AI, all of it, that's called the harness. And it grows out of control on you by accident. One little fix at a time. And the whole time, it's making everything feel worse because while you're busy blaming the wrong thing, you've fallen into this trap. So if you do one thing this week, do this. Take your harness and map it. Get all of it into one view where you can finally see it all laid out. And then cut 3 things. Just 3. Just find 3 things to cut. I promise you're going to feel the difference almost right away. Because here's what took me a really long time to learn. Getting good at this was never about adding more. It was about knowing what to take out. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. The setup is the skill, and the skill is subtraction. So I'm going to keep banging my head into these walls. I'm going to keep coming back to you and tell you what I find. I want to make this useful for you. So if you can, just go ahead and subscribe. You can catch whatever I build and break next. I'm putting it all online. I'm just doing this here with you. So that's really it. I was so incredibly surprised at everything that I found out about all of this stuff. And if I hadn't just taken a step back and done that audit, if I hadn't really looked at what I had built or what I was continuing to build, if I hadn't really looked at all the rules that I had written, and it's not even so much the rules, it's the reason I was writing the rules, right? Go back to the beginning. Remember, I was talking about I had 1 in every 10 messages was me correcting Claude. 10% of my time was just literally typing, "No, you're wrong." Doesn't make any sense. So the fix isn't more rules. The fix is less. The fix is more discipline in your process, in how you prompt. So when I figured all that stuff out, I told you about some of the tools, the fidelity audit, and some of the hooks and the syncs stuff that I do between my machines. I wanted to test out something simple and see if I could use Claude to just make something easy for me. I had been building these bigger and bigger things, right? I was trying to build big apps and it just kept failing. I just kept saying, why can you not understand what I'm doing? Because it's a robot that doesn't understand. So I built a little thing. It was just an image converter. So I've been rebuilding the Stone Tree Creative website, and I wanted to replace some of the pictures. And I didn't want to put in JPEGs that are like 500K or a megabyte in size. I wanted to put in little WebP files that are like 45K. And so I built a little JPEG to WebP converter, and I export from Lightroom into this folder. As soon as something goes into that folder, it kicks off a conversion. It archives the original, puts the completed ones into a separate folder, and then I can take those and upload those to my website. Super easy. I don't even have to think about it. And it's something that I used to convert literally one by one. I'd find some website to convert it to a WebP, and I'd drag it over and do over and over. It was terrible. So I built this little tool, and it works great. I gave Claude fewer rules and more autonomy. I gave it precise directions of exactly what I wanted, and I gave it the goal to finish. And it did it without a hitch. I'm talking 3-4 minutes later, I had my working thing. And I tried it again. Tried writing, right? Because one of the biggest things for me is getting my voice right. When I'm writing scripts like this video, or if I'm doing a series, if I'm doing something like that, I need it to sound like me. And you know, you've been using AI, you know exactly how this sounds. There's a lot of phrases that you just don't use in everyday conversation. And you got to remember, these LLMs were trained on like all the data in the world. So a lot of this junk that's out there gets fed in. And if more people are using the junk, the more it reinforces it in the model, right? So I find all these phrases, voice is very important to me. I find all these phrases that I don't like, and then I have to edit them out. And I'd say, you know, you're just not talking to me the right way. Change this. I would never say that. All of those are those little rules that I was talking about. And I was watching it right in real time. I'd say, I would never use the phrase barnacles like Nate did, right? I use rust, but I don't think in nautical terms. I'm not thinking about barnacles and how they slow a ship down, but I get the reference, right? But I don't use the word barnacles in my daily vocabulary. So when I see something like that in something that I wrote, then I get upset and I add a rule. I would never say it. Here's another banned phrase. Never use M dashes, never use emojis, never say, you know, this noun is doing a verb thing. Like, don't do those things. Don't give me those X not Y sentence structures, right? Every single one of those things is another rule in the harness, because I guarantee you, unlike the setup system that some of you have and some of you have used, all of that gives very precise locations to store different bits of information about you, right? It's optimizing the way Claude uses its memory. But as you write more and more rules, as more and more things are remembered about you by Claude or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, as it's remembered more and more and more, it's going to write these little rules. And sometimes those rules are going to contradict each other. And one of the bigger things that I found when I kind of did my big audit was that I was trying to do everything in one context window. I was filling my context window 450,000, 600,000 tokens. It's ridiculous. But I was thinking that I needed to have everything in one session. So I started to compact about every, 15 minutes. When I felt like I had produced a lot, I'd run the compact command, and I work almost exclusively in Claude Code, but I treat it like a chat bot a lot of the times. So I was having these big, long context sessions. And it was not only killing my usage, but it was taking forever to do anything because it was going back and reading all this stuff. And because of those context windows, the more context you have in that session, the more it's going to forget, because it's only going to put its weight on the newest thing that you're talking to it about. So that was another big learning of mine. I was doing these huge windows. Now I've condensed that all down. I use the compact command a lot. I start new sessions all the time. Hey, I'm just finishing up on this slide deck. We're going to finish, flushing these bullets out, yada, 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 yada. Here's the file. We're going to continue on this. And the more that you can give it specific tasks in really clear direction, that's the discipline that you need to make this really work for you. Now, again, if you're joining me here, I'm a photographer. I'm in the visual arts. I do not use generative AI for images, or video. Don't use it. I feel like I'd be betraying my peers by doing that. And I don't want to do that. It just doesn't feel right to me. I have no problem with people doing it. I just figure I'm a photographer, use my skill, do the thing. But I have zero issue with anybody doing it. But I do use it for a metric ton of my business. And I worry sometimes that, am I losing my critical thinking skills? And this entire process told me no. The reason I say that is a lot of times I have the idea, I build the system or the architecture of the system, and then I put it into Claude to do the hard work. I cannot sit around. I don't have the engineering software development background. I literally can't build the things by myself. But what I can do is give it very clear direction. I know what my voice sounds like. I know exactly what I want, and I have it build to those specs. So here's the confession at the end of this. The first 45 minutes of this, and you could probably tell, I was reading from a teleprompter that I built that's voice activated. And when I had to pause in there and things got real weird, yes, my mouse did disappear on me and I couldn't find the overlays to put up the new slide. But there was one or two pauses in there where my app failed on me and I had to find my place again. And the reason I used a teleprompter script tonight is because I wanted to be concise. I wanted to be clear. I didn't want to spin off on a tangent like I'm doing right now, because I want to repurpose some of the content and put some of this stuff out. But I used the teleprompter that I built because I have a beam splitter teleprompter with an iPad. I don't have like an Elgato teleprompter, just a Glide Gear. And I didn't like any of the teleprompter apps that were on the market. So I built my own in Claude Code, voice activated. You can download it for free if you want it. It's buggy, but you can try it for free. Just go to generatorpodcast.com. It's in the downloadable section. Go to mattstagliano.com. Any of these places. You're going to find iLine is what it's called. And the reason it's buggy and the reason it doesn't work the way I want it to is because I'm cheap. I didn't spend the $99 to get a Mac developer license, and now I'm going to, because I want to work the bugs out. This thing does work well. I think my friends should have it. I do want to make it free, and I just want to give back some of this stuff. I don't want to release slop that doesn't work just to put something out there. I'd rather do things that help people in a real way. So doing all of this stuff in my business isn't just about, hey, let me make my newsletter better and let me crank out these, boilerplate newsletters every week. That's not what I mean when I say I use it a lot for my business. I'm building the tools to help me work faster and more efficiently. And I know you can do it too, but a lot of times, unless you're paying attention to what it is that you're putting into AI, you're going to find yourself in that same mess. So when I come back to that critical thinking, am I losing my critical thinking by relying on AI so heavily? No, because I believe that as the overall architect and decision maker on everything, I'm looking at it through such a microscope that I'm really trying to think critically about everything that comes out of it. Not only the output, but how the output was made. All the engineering behind it. And you got to look at this stuff that way. No one is ever going to hand you an easy button AI that's going to do everything you want. They've been talking about that shit for years, and it still isn't here. Right? What we've got right now is good predictive technology that saves you a lot of time when you know how to use it well. I've built more stuff since April when I started in Claude Code. I built more stuff in April than I've probably built in a decade in my own business. Now, apples and oranges, right? But in terms of sheer productivity, it's phenomenal what I've been able to accomplish with my ADHD brain, with things bouncing all over the place. I love what I'm doing now, and I love teaching you about it. And I'm not sitting here like I got all the answers. I'm working through this in public right in front of you so that you can see and hopefully learn from my mistakes that it doesn't have to be that hard. And that we don't have to look at AI as the enemy. We don't have to equate AI with billionaire tech bros. We don't have to say that a hammer is bad because there's a million Home Depot stores out there. The tool itself can be used however you want, for good, for bad, for cheating, for some deep research. But that's up to you. That's not up to me. I know how I'm using it, and I sleep really, really well at night. So anyway, we're at the hour. It's almost 8 o'clock. I'm going to take a look at a lot of stuff going forward. If you made it this far, I appreciate you very, very much. Follow, subscribe, send this to somebody that you know, because I want to demystify all of this for all of you. There's a lot of people out there doing it. I want to do it in a way that isn't a quick fix. It's not, oh my God, just press this and it's going to solve, or download my thing, it's going to solve everything. Nope. I got the setup system because I spent months and months and months putting it together because I failed putting all this memory stuff together, trying to figure out how it really works, right? And not get some feature list from Anthropic or OpenAI. I wanted to figure out, how does it work in real life, and how do I explain it to people in real practical language? There's a lot to learn here. You don't have to learn it all in one night. Bite-sized pieces. That's all going to create the compound effect over time. It's amazing how fast this stuff is moving. And quite frankly, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is probably going to be solved in the next 3 months, 6 months, if that long. Because this is the conversation. This is the conversation that people are having. I felt kind of justified, quite frankly, to see Nate Jones talking about it. And I was working all day to put this show together tonight so I could talk about exactly the same thing. And it just feels good. So all of us can do this. All of us can help each other out. So that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be back next week. Generator episodes, like actual interviews with creatives, are coming back. They're not gone. It's not that I'm going to show up every single week and just talk about AI. Those are all coming back. I just take a break from now and then. You know, sometimes schedules happen, life be lifing, all that. But this stuff right here, man, this is where it's at for me anyway, as I start to pivot and expand and build things out. So again, thank you. Got any questions? Just let me know. Go to mattstagliano.com. You'll find everything there. Get in touch with me. And yeah, I will see you soon. All right. Thanks again for hanging out. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.